The sun was just beginning to dip behind the jagged horizon of the frontier town. Dust rose from the wooden boardwalks as wagons creaked and horses stamped. I stepped off the stagecoach, my feet aching and my dress torn along the hem, my body bruised from the chaos of the long journey. My heart pounded, not from the ride but from the fear of what awaited me. I had been promised safety, a new life, and perhaps love. But standing there barefoot on the dry, sun-baked earth, I realized no one had come to meet me. The man I was supposed to marry had vanished, leaving me stranded in a town full of strangers. "Please, someone," I whispered to the wind, my voice breaking. My dress clung to me from sweat, dust, and tears, and I sank to my knees on the uneven wooden planks. My hands trembled as I wiped my face. The quiet of the town was broken by the clip-clop of horse hooves. A man approached, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dusty hat and a wary look in his eyes. He stopped a few feet from me as if measuring my despair. "You all right, miss?" His voice was soft but firm, carrying the authority of someone who had tamed wild land and lived to tell the tale. I looked up, embarrassed and ashamed. I'm fine," I lied. "You don't look fine." He knelt down slowly, meeting my gaze, and for the first time since I'd arrived, a flicker of hope warmed my chest. The man, Eli, as he later introduced himself, helped me to my feet. His touch was gentle but strong. He guided me toward a small stable at the edge of town, speaking quietly so I wouldn't be embarrassed in front of anyone. "You can stay here tonight," he said. "There's fresh water and blankets. You need rest." I can't impose," I murmured, gripping my torn dress. "Consider it a courtesy. The West can be cruel enough without strangers being cruel on purpose," he replied. His eyes softened, revealing a kindness I hadn't expected from a man of his rugged stature. I followed him, wincing as the bruises along my legs pressed against the rough fabric. The stable smelled of hay, horses, and something comforting: safety. He placed a blanket over a bench and handed me a small tin cup of water. "Drink," he instructed. "You look like you haven't had much in days." As I drank, I felt the tight knot in my chest loosen just a little. For the first time, I realized maybe I hadn't been abandoned entirely. Later that evening, Eli and I sat outside by the campfire he had built. The flames danced in our faces, casting long shadows across the wooden posts and the dry earth. He handed me a small loaf of bread, breaking it in half. "I'm not much for fancy words," he said, "but sometimes actions speak louder than promises." I laughed softly, bitterly. Promises were what got me here in the first place. He nodded, staring into the fire. "I've seen people arrive broken, thinking life's done with them. But sometimes, there's more left to fight for." We shared our stories. I told him about the man who never arrived, the journey across the harsh prairie, and the fear that I'd be alone forever. He spoke of ranch life, the loneliness of wide-open land, and the satisfaction of earning trust and respect. As the fire crackled, I felt a connection growing, a quiet understanding, fragile but real. The next morning I awoke to the sound of horses neighing and the golden light spilling over the prairie. My bruises throbbed, but my heart felt lighter. Eli had prepared breakfast and brewed strong coffee. "I made sure no one bothered you," he said, handing me a cup. I smiled faintly, feeling an unexpected warmth in my chest. "Thank you for everything." He avoided my eyes, instead looking down at the fire. "You don't have to thank me. I'm glad you're here." Something about the way he said it made my chest tighten. The connection between us, tentative and unspoken, seemed to stretch across the quiet ranch, filling the space with something neither of us had dared to name. Days passed and our bond deepened. Eli helped me care for the horses, mend fences, and move hay. Each task brought shared laughter, quiet smiles, and unspoken understanding. One evening, after a long day, I sat on the porch, looking at the orange glow of the sunset. Eli appeared beside me, leaning against the railing. "I should have said something sooner," he began. "I've watched over you since the day you got here. I always care for you, more than I probably should." My heart leapt and sank at the same time. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just know that you're not alone anymore. Not here, not ever." Tears pricked my eyes. His honesty, his unwavering presence, it was more than I'd dared hope for. The night had grown quiet, the sky painted with stars. Eli led me to the edge of the prairie, where the wind whispered through the tall grass. "Look at me," he said, kneeling on one knee. My breath caught. I didn't know," I whispered. "I know you've been hurt. I know life hasn't been fair. but I want to stand by you. Be your home, your strength, your heart. Will you let me? I looked at his earnest eyes, the fading sunlight making him glow like a vision. I felt all my fears dissolve. Yes, I whispered, my voice trembling. Yes. He rose, taking my hands in his. The world felt still. The prairie vast yet intimate, as if holding just the two of us in a private moment of eternity. Weeks passed. Life on the ranch became our shared rhythm. We tended animals, rode across the golden fields, and built a home together. Each day was a reminder that trust, love, and patience could heal even the deepest wounds. At night, we'd sit by the fire, hands entwined, watching the stars blink over the vast prairie. The past, with all its pain, had led us here. Two hearts bruised but resilient, finally whole. I had arrived broken and barefoot. And now I stood loved, safe and home. A week later, a heavy storm rolled across the prairie. Dark clouds churned above and rain pelted the wooden roof of our small ranch house. I was inside, mending torn blankets, when Eli burst in, drenched but grinning. I thought you'd like some company while the storm rages outside, he said, shaking water from his hat. You're soaked, I exclaimed, rushing to grab a towel. I've faced worse, he said with a wink, but nothing's worse than seeing you shiver. We laughed through the storm, sharing warmth and teasing. It was a rare, perfect moment, life outside of tragedy and fear. The storm raged, but inside the house our hearts were calm. The town had its own small events, a market day, a church gathering. I accompanied Eli to town for supplies. While he was talking to a few ranch hands, another woman smiled at him, clearly flirting. I felt a strange tightening in my chest. Jealousy, unfamiliar and sharp. My feet carried me toward the edge of town, pretending to inspect the stalls. Eli noticed and came after me. You okay? He asked, concern knitting his brows. I'm fine, I muttered, but he didn't let it go. He took my hands gently. Listen, nobody matters but you. I chose you. Every day. You have nothing to worry about. I felt tears prick my eyes again, but this time they were tears of gratitude, of relief. My heart was his and his was mine. The next morning, Eli suggested we take a ride across the prairie. I climbed onto the horse behind him, my arms wrapped around his waist. The wind whipped my hair and the sun glinted off the distant hills. This feels like freedom, I whispered. Eli chuckled. Freedom and a little adventure. Just hold on. We galloped across golden fields, stopping by a small creek. He helped me down, brushing my hair back as I laughed for the first time without reservation. It was a simple moment, but it cemented something powerful between us, a trust, a partnership, a love unspoken yet complete. One afternoon, a man arrived in town, his boots dusty, eyes cold. He asked after me, his gaze lingering in a way that made my stomach twist. He was my intended groom, thought dead, now returned to claim me, or perhaps exact revenge. Eli stepped forward, placing a hand lightly but firmly on my shoulder. She's with me now, he said, voice calm but commanding. The man scoffed. You don't own her. Eli's eyes met mine. No, but I'll protect her. The confrontation was tense, the air crackling. I realized then more than ever that this quiet, strong rancher was my safety, my heart and my home. That night after the threat had passed, Eli and I sat outside the ranch house. The stars were brilliant, scattered across the endless prairie sky. He reached for my hand, holding it in his large, warm palm. I don't say this enough, he began, voice low. But you saved me as much as I saved you. I've never felt this way before. I leaned against him, resting my head on his shoulder. I was broken, but with you I feel whole. We stayed like that, quiet under the stars, the wind whispering through the tall grass. No words were needed. Our hearts had found home in each other. Weeks later, the town gathered to celebrate. The church bells rang, announcing a simple but heartfelt ceremony. I wore a modest dress, barefoot as before, but this time it didn't matter. I wasn't afraid, ashamed, or alone. Eli stood at the altar, his eyes soft, filled with love. He held my hands as we exchanged vows, the sun setting behind the wooden church, painting the sky in gold and crimson. I promise to love you, protect you, and be your home, he said, and I promise to trust you, stand by you, and love you through everything, I replied. The townsfolk cheered, horses neighing in the distance, the prairie wind carrying our laughter across the fields. Life settled into a peaceful rhythm. Days filled with work, laughter, and small adventures on the ranch. Nights under the stars reminded us that love, patience, and courage had healed our wounds. I remembered the day I arrived, bruised and barefoot, terrified and alone. Now I was strong, loved, and safe. And Eli, the quiet rancher who fell to one knee, was the reason my heart had found its home. We often stood on the porch, hands entwined, watching the sun sink behind the hills, knowing that no matter what storms came, we would face them together.
Like, share, and subscribe.